Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming out this afternoon. My name is Matt Jacobs. I'm director of the Bob Graham Center for Public Service. It's wonderful to see such a great turnout on such a hot Sunday afternoon in late June in Gainesville. The first thing I want to note is if you need to update your voter registration, please feel free to do so. We have a table in the back where we can assist you with that. We are a registered third-party voter organization, so we can help you do that process and walk you through that. So again, please feel free to do so if you need to. I just have a couple of quick responsibilities, and I'll get out of the way and let the show commence. The first thing I want to do is give some thank yous. The first is to our partners, the League of Women Voters. We've been partnering with the League of Women Voters on these candidate forums for a few years now, and it's a great opportunity for us to engage with the community a little bit more, and it's a great opportunity for people from the community to hear from our candidates for our local elections. And so thank you very much to the League of Women Voters for that. Yes. I also want to thank the team here at the Graham Center, Marianne Vernetson, our Associate Director and Public Programs Coordinator, Teresa Cornichione, our Civic Engagement Coordinator, Dorothy Zimmerman, our Communications Director. They do a tremendous amount of work, and they're very ably assisted by some of our student assistants on this. I want to particularly note Isa Garcia and Leah Edwards, who've both done a tremendous amount of work helping pull this together as well. So thank you to Isa and Leah as well. You guys do a fantastic job, and we're delighted to have you here. Thank you also to you guys, our audience. It's incredible to see this kind of turnout. This is really, really important for our community, and it's great to have you all here in Pugh Hall in the Ocora. I'm going to have one more thank you to do as well, but before I get to that, I also want to recognize Bob Graham. Bob was a pillar of community service, civic engagement, and public service and public leadership, and he founded the center to be a space to continue that. And certainly this demonstrates the value of public service, civic engagement, and public leadership. And so certainly we want to recognize his memory and his legacy as well. Lastly, I want to thank the candidates. So local government has far more impact on our day-to-day lives than national government ever will, right? You know, it's not the White House that's getting your garbage picked up. It's not the White House that controls your utility bills. It's not Congress that is determining sort of what's going on in your local zoning issues, what's happening at your school board, any of that stuff, right? Local governance is what really matters in our day-to-day lives. And our candidates aren't here for the glamour of the position, trust me, right? Local government doesn't have the big salaries, doesn't have the glamour, doesn't have the high-end media exposure. Local government officials, the candidates who are here today, regardless of whatever your individual politics may be as an audience member or as a candidate, our local government candidates deserve our thanks and our respect for being willing to serve. They're members of our communities. We see them in the grocery stores. We see them walking down the streets. We see them in our neighborhoods and our communities on a daily basis. They are part of us, right? And they're here because they want to lead and engage and serve with you. And so I want to give a quick round of applause to all of our candidates and thanks for your willingness to serve. My last responsibility is to introduce Janice Gary, President of the League of Women Voters. And so, as I said, we couldn't pull this off without their partnership, and we really do thank them for working with us on this. And so please, Janice.
And I have a script to follow, but I want to say that I didn't do the lion's share of this work. It was Gwen Wagner, Diana Boxer, and other people in the league did far more than I did, and I appreciate it very much. Good afternoon, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Primary Election Candidate Forum. I'm Janice Gary, President of the League of Women Voters, Alachua County, and along with the Bob Graham Center for Public Service, we welcome you and thank you for being here. We appreciate your viewership, and we appreciate the participation of the candidates. This forum is open to the public, and an open forum such as this is the essence of democracy and the freedoms we enjoy in our republic. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization which promotes democracy through voter education and advocacy. We do not endorse candidates or political parties, but for more than 100 years, we have studied and supported state, local, and national issues. I remind you that no recording in any medium is allowed. No part of a video may be used in a political advertisement. The content of this forum is the property of the League and the Bob Graham Center, which will record it and make it available to the public after the event. Post-forum viewing will be possible on the League's and the Graham Center's YouTube channels. The links will be appearing on our web pages. For each panel, we will introduce ourselves and we will explain the format of the panel, which participants have received in advance. All candidates have also received and agreed to the forum rules. They are the standard rules used for all League forums. Questions were prepared and selected by members of the League. Candidates who appear by name on the primary election ballot for sheriff, county commission, school board, City of Gainesville commission, and state representative were invited to participate in today's forum. The views expressed in the forum are those of the candidates and not those of the League. We're beginning today with the sheriff's panel.
Good afternoon. I am Gwendolyn Sappho, Vice President of the League, and I will be the moderator for the Alachua County Sheriff position. There are three Democratic candidates who will be on the primary ballot for the sheriff seat: Mr. Peter King, Mr. Chad Scott, and Mr. Latrell Simmons. The winner will run against the current interim sheriff, Emery Gainey, a Republican, and Pamela Marsha Coombs, who has no party affiliation, in the general election in November. The Alachua County Sheriff is elected in a partisan election and serves a 4-year term. However, there is no term limit. So the format of the forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. This will be followed by 3 questions. You will each have 1 1/2 minutes to answer the questions. You will be able to see the timer that will indicate the remaining time at 30 seconds and stop. When your time is up, please stop. Your microphone may or may not be muted. We will begin with opening statements in alphabetical order. Mr. Peter King, your statement, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. I'm sorry. Press the button.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I think it's better. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the Bob Graham Center. I do appreciate you putting on this forum. Okay. All right. I'm Peter King. I'm a lifelong resident of Alachua County. I went to P.K. Young High School for 12 years, graduated in 1984. After high school, I enlisted in the United States Army Reserve, where I served for 20 years, retiring in 2005. After that, I was hired at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, where I started my career in 2000. And I was 2 months shy of hitting my 24th year. I'm a servant leader. My plan is to make Alachua County the safest county in the state and eventually in this country. We're going to do that through strong leadership, a leadership with empathy and compassion, and it's about making this community, like I said, the safest in the county and in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Scott, your statement, please.
Good evening. Thank you guys for coming. My name is Chad Scott. I was born in Newberry. I went to college at Bethel College where I received a bachelor's degree. After college, I got my first job at the North Florida Evaluation and Treatment Center where I worked with NGI and ITP patients, which is not guilty by reasons of insanity and incompetent to withstand trial. After that, I got hired by the Alachua Sheriff's Office in 1990. I worked in patrol. I got promoted to sergeant where I worked at the street crimes unit. First of all, I was a school resource officer as well, where I was at Newberry, and I taught the first criminal justice class for school resource. After that, I went to the Alachua Police Department, where I rose through every rank. Then I got the chief position, and we encountered gun violence, which is plaguing the community right now. We put it to bed through collaboration with local and federal officials. We gained control of the situation. But thank you so much, Chad Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Next, Mr. Latrell Simmons, your statement, please.
Thank you for being here today with us. Latrell Simmons, candidate for Sheriff of Alachua County. A little bit about my campaign is that it's based on proven leadership, experience, and transparency. My experience over at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, I was there for a little over 22 years. During that time, I held a variety of different positions: the Major of Operations, Major of Support Services, the Chief Inspector, the Assistant Jail Director, as well as Security Operations Commander, among a variety of other leadership positions as well. A little bit about my platform. I plan to focus on gun violence, traffic safety, mental health, and some other concerns that are plaguing our community, the homelessness. While most people may not think that it's a law enforcement concern, it very well is. Homeless people, as well as those that suffer from mental health, often end up in the jail, and that is not the place for them. We must find other alternatives for them. Traffic safety, we all drove to get here, so we know how traffic is out on the streets. Gun violence, we must do something about it immediately and focus on our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to our questions. As a reminder, you will have 1.5 minutes to answer. We will start with the second candidate alphabetically and then rotate the order in which the candidates respond to the questions. The first question is, what do you believe is the #1 thing that needs to change at the Sheriff's Department, and how would you change it? We will begin with Mr. Chad Scott. Your answer, please.
The first thing I want to focus on at the Sheriff's Office, if you deal with people on the inside, I think you have to deal with people that are competent, capable, confident in their jobs, and also have the passion and the empathy and love for people. The first thing I want to encounter is on the inside, and to build emotional intelligence within people. If you cannot get along on the inside, how are you going to expect people to deal with folks on the outside? So I want to focus on relationships and leadership within the Sheriff's Office that with people that have passion and love and empathy for other people. You know, without that, you don't have anything. We deal with people at the most vulnerable times of their lives. When you talk about somebody has been a victim of rape or gun violence. So we have to have empathy. You have to have passion, and I don't expect us to deal with people on the outside if we're not dealing properly with each other on the inside. So my focus will be on people that are competent, capable, and confident, and coupled with passion for the job, and empathy and love. That's the first thing. That's the first thing we have to do, because if you don't, there's people now in all agencies wearing the uniform that don't need to be wearing a uniform. So we have to focus on positive relationship with our community. That's where it starts.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Next, Mr. Latrell Simmons, your answer, please.
All right, that's a difficult question. There are quite a few things that I would like to change over at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. But the primary thing would be, sorry, can you hear me now? Is that better? All right. There are quite a few things that I would change over at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, but the primary concern that I have is with the leadership and the administration. Right now, when I become sheriff, I'm going to bring in a diverse group of people who are experienced and care about their employees. I personally feel that if we take care of our employees, they would take care of the community that they serve. There have been throughout history that there's a divide between whether you work at the jail, over on the law enforcement side, and also in other areas. We are all human. We all signed up to work at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office to serve this Alachua County community and beyond. Therefore, the administration should treat all of their employees the same way. And I believe, like I said previously, that will pass over to you as citizens with the service that we provide. I can go on and on about the training that I want to implement within the agency for our personnel, but I'm limited to 1 minute and 30 seconds. All right. So after, I still have 12 seconds. After this forum, please come upstairs and see me, and we can continue this conversation about the Alachua County Sheriff's Office and how you can be a part of it as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Mr. Peter King, your answer, please.
Yes, ma'am. Like Latrell said, many things that be changed at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. But for me also, it has to start with leadership. A leader that's compassionate, working hard with the community, and working hard within the agency. It has a lot to do with sympathy, and we have to train our deputies up to do what's right based on the leadership style. I believe that a leader needs to lead with compassion. He needs to be really focused on bringing up what's right, do what's right within the agency. There are leaders now within the agency that lead only because they're in the position. We got to have somebody that's passionate about leadership and not just being in the position. So once we get leaders in there that are passionate about leading with just the passion and not being in the position, things are going to change. We have to have our command staff be a reflection of our community. Alachua County is a diverse, very diverse community, and right now our command staff isn't a reflection of our community. So we got to change our command staff and make it be a reflection of our community, and also have our agency be a reflection of our community. It's one-sided. There are a lot of good people at the jail that have some issues, and things that over there are somewhat one-sided. So we need to change the diversity of the agency and bring in people with compassion that's going to lead with passion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Our next question is, what strategies will you use to build and maintain community trust? We will start with Mr. Simmons. Your answer, please.
All right, what strategies will I use to build and maintain community trust? Well, if you look over my history at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, you'll see that the majority of it was involved being out in the community. I was a school resource deputy for several years. I was a supervisor over the program. Some of you may have had family members that attended the Washington, D.C. Safety Patrol trip. I believe I went up there at least 10 times with 1,200 kids or so, and parents and chaperones. But we must engage. We must engage in our community. And you can't do that from behind a desk. You have to get out, go into all parts of Alachua County, which is, quite frankly, I don't feel like it's being done right now. There are certain sectors of Alachua County that get the sheriff's office attention, while others don't. And the ones that don't need the sheriff's office attention the most. That's where you have violent crimes occurring. And one way to prevent that is to have our young people engaged in something. All of my kids played sports growing up, and I believe that gave them something to do when they left school for the day and then they came home at night. We must engage in our young people if we want to see a change in the gun violence and to develop the community's trust at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. King, your answer, please.
Great strategies are what we're going to need to make this county, to build trust in this county. And unfortunately, I got to echo what Simmons said. We got to be in the community. We got to have programs and have outreach programs to in the communities where we're having some issues at. Me personally, I will be out there in the community. I will go from community to community. We got to have a leader that when you go in the community where we're having some issues at, that community has to be able to receive that leader, that sheriff, and I'm that person. My personality in every community I go into, working with, I served warrants for 12 years. I was in school resource also. And I built a relationship within all of these communities because they came through our school, and now since they were my students, now they're adults and they have children. So the relationship that I built with them during the school time, during the school years, is a strong relationship that I have now. And everybody has dispersed to different communities. I've lived in a lot of those communities. I know how to relate to those communities. They have to have somebody they can relate to. And by relating and living in the past, going through some things that they went through, they can understand and we can relate. So it's going to take somebody going out into communities, being in those communities, establishing a relationship and building a relationship, making a strong relationship and with strong rapport, then I will have a strong strategy and we will fix things in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Scott. Your answer, please.
Well, I've been in law enforcement now for 34 years, and I've served in every capacity that you can possibly serve in law enforcement. And I have much love for and empathy for people. But as far as regaining the trust and respect, it's people call me today, every day. But you have to have transparency. You know, you have to be able to communicate with the people and get your narrative out first. You got to communicate with the people. People want to hear from you. If something happened, they want to hear from you. We got to get the narrative out first. The other thing is accessibility. You got to be accessible to the people. People got to be able to reach you. People got to be able to give you a call. You got to be accessible. If people know me, Chad Scott, when they call me, I answer. I answer my phone. You don't have to call my sergeant, my lieutenant, or any other person other than me. People want to hear from the sheriff, not the undersheriff, the sheriff. You have to be accessible. The third thing is dedication. I have been dedicated. I have been dedicated to my community for 34 years, and believe it or not, I've never called in sick. Never called in sick because I love my community. So when you talk about trust, that's trust. That's when people trust you, when they'll be able to call you and to be able to get an answer. When it comes to public records requests, when they want to know something, tell them how to get it. Tell them how to get it. That's because that's what they want to know. You have to be accessible, you have to be transparent, and you have to be dedicated to your community. And I have done that. This is nothing about Chad Scott. This is about my community in which I love and which you love, so I can protect your kids and your children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Now for the third and final question. Gun violence continues to be on the rise in our community. What policies, preventative measures, or programs do you plan to put in place to curb this public health crisis if elected to this office? We will begin with Mr. King. Your answer, please.
Gun violence is definitely plaguing this community, this county. What I think is important that we have to reach back, do something, think a way out of the box. There are some people that have been down this road before that have committed some of these crimes. They use guns and gun violence. They have since done their time. Now those people want to come back and give back to the community and pull our youth away from that. What's important, we got to have them come in, talk with our youth, guide them along the right lines. We got to have programs for them after school, programs for them to be involved with that shows the right way to go and how to deal with conflict. There's a lot of conflict resolution that we can put in at our schools. We did it at Eastside for years, and our fight went down because it was a conflict resolution that was mediated by their peers. So with the gun violence, we bring in people that's been down that road before, have them interact with our youth, get the programs going, show them how to make a better decision, and from there move on and keep contact and reinforcement and constant contact to ensure that they don't go back to those decisions to use gun violence, go to gun violence. It's very important that we think out of the box and bring people that we never would expect to come in and do these things for us. It's people that's serving in this community. That's how we're gonna do it. That's my way of getting this thing taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Chad Scott. Your answer, please.
I've been on a street crimes unit, and I've been a supervisor on a street crimes unit. And dealing with gun violence right now, there's consequences and repercussions because these guys and the active shooters, they're killing each other. So the model that you have to use right now is called an ILP, which is intelligence-led policing. You don't focus on the people, you focus on the problem. You know, you have crime analysts that's putting data together when these things happen, and then you have data that you can focus directly on that problem. There's no way around that. You have to focus on the problem. However, there's another part that we need to focus on as a community is early intervention. Statistics say 0 to 5 is when a child's mind is developed. The main part of their development is 0 to 5. So as a police department, we have to collaborate with other people, such as in the school resource program, business owners, community leaders, and clergy, to find out how can we get to these kids early intervention. You have big brothers, you take stock in children to deal with this issue. But if you look around, if you look at Grand Theft Auto, you think about all these video games and these mothers that's working and not paying attention, these kids are shooting each other. So we have to get information out to these parents that say, hey, listen, we got to find other things for them to do. We got to find sports, theater, anything, but collaboratively, we have to get this on the table with all agencies, school board and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Mr. Latrell Simmons, your answer, please.
Thank you. I think this is one of our biggest problems. I know for a fact that this is one of our biggest problems in our community. We're losing way too many lives of young people in our community. Is that better? Thank you. All right. What are we going to do about gun violence in our community? Because I can tell you that the sheriff's office can't do it alone. We need our community there with us to be our eyes, our ears, and the support when we start rolling out initiatives. One of the things that was alluded to previously by the other two candidates was the school resource program. It is an extremely strong program in our county. And as I mentioned earlier, I was a school resource officer as well as I supervised the unit for many years. Peter King mentioned that a lot of those kids come back and talk to you after they graduate high school. That is where you get some of your intelligence from, because they're out there in those communities, the same communities that don't have the necessary resources. And as the sheriff of Alachua County, I would partner with other agencies throughout the county to provide resources to those communities so they don't have to go out and sell drugs, so they don't have to go out and steal. In addition to that, youth dialogue. There's a barrier between law enforcement and our youth in this community. We had youth dialogue going strong at the Alachua County Sheriff's Office while I was there, and we established so many wonderful relationships. In addition to that, mental health for our youth, and also provide jobs and resources in those communities that need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. This ends the panel for the Alachua County Sheriff's seat. Thank you so much, candidates, for participating today. The next panel will be the primary election candidates for County Commission.
Sneak up behind you. Settled? Happy? Everything good? Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Rhonda Sibilia, a proud member of the League of Women Voters, and I'm going to serve as moderator for County Commission District 1. There are 2 Democratic candidates for County Commission District 1 seat that will appear on the primary ballot. They are Mary Alford and Dijon Kane. Welcome you, and thank you very much for being here today. Now, Alachua County Commissioners are elected for a 4-year term with no term limits. Seats are elected by residents in that district, and at the time of the election, the candidates must live in the districts in which they represent. District 1 is kind of southwest Gainesville and going down south and western part of Alachua County. The format for the forum will be as was previously. Each candidate will have a minute for their opening statement, and then they will have 3 questions, and they will have a minute and a half to answer. No, somebody messed up the papers, sorry. They will have a minute and a half to answer. There will be 3 questions total, and I'll rotate the order in which the questions respond. And as before, and I don't know if you saw how the sheriff's candidates did, but you'll be able to see the timer indicating that the remaining time at 30 seconds, and then stop when your time is up, please. We will now begin with the candidates' opening statements. You have 1 minute, and we will begin in alphabetical order. So, Mary Alford, would you please give your opening statement?
Good afternoon. Alachua County is a special place. It's full of really wonderful people, a really wonderful environment, and really awesome amenities like the cultural aspects of the University of Florida, our springs, and our nature. And that's one of the reasons I've chosen to stay here in Alachua County. I was born and raised here, went to P.K. Young. I went to Santa Fe College as a single mom with 4 kids. And I went to the University of Florida, and it took me 10 years, but I ended up with a degree in engineering and a master's of engineering. I've been a small business owner. I've specialized in sustainability and affordable housing and in the environment. I've also been broke. I've been housing challenged, and I understand the challenges that many folks here in Alachua County face. I believe our county government's doing a great job, and I would like to keep doing that job, and I hope that after this forum I'll have earned your vote in August. Thank you.
Thank you. Dijon Kane, may we hear your statement, please?
My name is Dijon Kane. I'm homegrown from Gainesville, Florida. I'm currently a business owner. I own Fortitude Security. I also train people for their G license and their D license in security services. Also, in this community, I was brought up at Gainesville High School. I also went to Howard Bishop Middle School. And I love to say that I'm an AGH baby because many people forget about AGH, but I was born there. It is so important in our county government that we have a leader that understands, a leader that won't leave the job or just come to the job for certain times or certain periods, but understand that we need a leader that listens, that cares, that understands the needs of the community. It's important that when you come and you talk to us, that we listen to what you have to say. And I love this community, and I'm ready to fight and continue fighting. This is my 3rd time. I almost won in 22, lost by 200 votes, and I'm not through. I'm going to continue until we push to the limit to get the leaders that we deserve. So I ask for your vote on the 20th of August. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kane, and thank you, candidates. We'll now move on to our prepared questions. You will have 1.5 minutes to answer, and we will begin with the second candidate alphabetically and then rotate the order in which you respond. So for our first question, we will begin with candidate Dijon Kane. The county has recognized the importance of climate change and has started implementing policy changes that include resiliency and mitigation. What steps do you think the county should take next to ensure that we collectively reduce our local carbon emissions?
Well, I believe that we need to get with our local companies and we need to talk about this issue, even with the community. Because one thing that's been left out is our community as far as talking to them, seeing and letting them know that, hey, climate is real. Climate change is real. I was speaking to someone before I came in here, and we were just talking about how real it is, and we have to take it seriously. But we also got to really, really talk to the scientists. We got to really, really talk to our people in our community and see where they're staying with that, and we work together. That's one thing we're missing. We got to work as a team to get climate change where it needs to be and hear everybody's opinion, and let's work from there to get it done.
Thank you. Ms. Alford, your response, please.
Thank you. The county, when I first was elected 4 years ago, I started serving on the Water and Climate Advisory Board. This is a joint board with the City of Gainesville. And we have ordered a climate vulnerability analysis that's being finished up this year. We have some, good and bad news in that vulnerability analysis, and it's going to require a lot of work to take that information and come to some good, strong policy changes to put those recommendations to work. We also have a Citizens Climate Advisory Board. That's one of our best climate advisory boards that we have. Some really strong, smart people sit on that. And we actually have recently had openings, so I hope that some of you look at that and consider applying if this is of interest to you. But we do listen to our citizens, and we do the work with the experts that are in our community, and we do have a lot of work to do. This is my field. I could spend a long time going down all the list of things that we need to do to lower our carbon footprint. But I will say that we are doing the work. We are lowering our carbon footprint with each of our construction projects, with each of our choices, with the fact that, I'll leave it at that, but we can talk about this for a long time upstairs later. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question starts with you, Mary Alford. What strategy or strategies will you employ to respond to public concerns and criticisms?
Strategies very general question. I think the number one strategy is to hear the concern. And sometimes when people come to you with a concern, it's not what they're saying at the face that's a deeper, more entrenched concern that's there. And so hearing what our community has to say with an open mind, with doing the background research into what's being said, and understanding that when person after person after person comes to you with a problem and other people say it's not a problem, it probably is a problem. We've been hearing housing was a concern in this county for years and years and years and years, right? Now we have 60,000 people a day that commute into Alachua County because they can't afford to live here. So we didn't listen to their concerns. We didn't address that back when it would have been a much easier thing to accomplish. So I believe that the number one thing to do is to hear people and believe them when they say they have a problem. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kane, your response, please.
So, first of all, I believe that we must hear the need, we must spark the change, and we must save the people. So those strategies is what we need. First of all, I think the County Commission does a great job with that, but I think we can sharpen up. The race that we're in right now, it's a district race. So what are the needs of Archer? What are the needs of Micanopy? What are the needs of Southwest Gainesville? That is important. And I think being accessible and also allowing them to call you. For instance, with my campaign, since we started, you can call and we'll talk to you right away. 352-283-0288. And that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call, ask questions. You can donate or whatever you need to do. But we have to have those line of communications open. And not just that. If you call my cell phone and you say, Mr. Kane, I want to go to lunch. Well, let's go to lunch on me. It's important that we have that feeling and not just talk about that feeling. Far too long, we've talked about it, but there has not been any action. And with my leadership, I'm ready to bring that in. And I've been doing it the whole time I ran. I did it in 22, and I'm going to continue to do it because that's what we need. Someone that understands the needs of the people, and they're accessible to our constituents.
Thank you. You may be facing a lot of lunches in the future.
I'm ready.
And for our next question, we will begin with Dijon Kane. How would you describe the balance between progress and tradition in Alachua County?
Well, let me say this. We are making progress. We are, but it's not quick enough. We've been left behind too long. We have too many things troubling our communities and too many things that people are dealing with. Too many governmental entities, Archer, Micanopy, they're dealing with water issues and infrastructure issues. We shouldn't have that. We have the resources, so we got to work with them to get that done. So the balance is okay, but I believe the balance can get better with better leadership, better communication, working together, all to just make it work. We got to work together. That's just the key thing. We got to stop choosing what we're going to do, and we got to work with our municipalities and work with our mayors and make sure that we work hard to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Alford, your response?
I remember the meeting where they made the decision to take down Old Joe. Old Joe was a Civil War statue that sat on the green at the Alachua County Courthouse. And there was a lot of discussion about tradition. And then I was there just this past year after Old Joe had found another home when we put up a new statue called Sankofa, and it was in honor of a woman named Patricia Hilliard Nunn, who was a true visionary of progress, while she also, valued the tradition of many things. If you knew her, you'd know what I was talking about. But watching that new statue be unveiled and seeing progress was real valuable to me. And I think there's a role for tradition. I think that we have to carefully evaluate the traditions that we have in our community and see where they fit our needs today. See if they are honoring our values and our commitments today. And sometimes those traditions are important. The tradition of government, the tradition of public discourse, the tradition of government itself. But there's also a time for progress. Thank you.
Thank you. And this ends the panel for County Commission District 1. I want to thank you candidates for being here. The next panel will be the primary election candidates for school board.
Center intern Isabella Garcia and will be the moderator for the Alachua County School Board District 2 and 4 panel. There are 2 candidates for the District 2 seat, Diane McGraw and Thomas Vu. There are 2 candidates for the District 4 seat, Leonetta McNeely and Lou Welch. Welcome, candidates, and thank you for joining us today. The Alachua County School Board members are elected in nonpartisan elections and serve 4-year terms. All registered voters in Alachua County, regardless of where you live or party affiliation, may vote for all school board members. The seats are elected by the county at large, but candidates must reside in the district they would represent. The format of the forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their opening statement. Following the opening statements, I will read questions prepared by the League of Women Voters. Each candidate will then have 1.5 minutes to answer these questions. There will be 3 questions in total. I will rotate the order in which the candidates respond. Candidates, you will be able to see the timer that will indicate the remaining time at 30 seconds and stop. Please stop when your time is up. If you do not, your microphone may be muted. We will begin with candidates' opening statements. You each have 1 minute, and we will begin in alphabetical order. District 2, Diane McGraw, your statement, please.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am Diane McGraw, and I am still your candidate that has been committed to serve, and I have the courage to lead. In the last 18 months, when we were elected in 2022, I have been very visible, actionable. I implemented a barber class at Eastside High School, and we have a second one coming. I visited over 90% of our schools in the first 2 weeks to build those relationships, hear from our teachers, our parents, and our administrators. Also, I created a municipality, joint municipality meetings with surrounding municipalities to ensure every voice is heard. I also created a community-wide CTE board, and that has been working well. And I also wrote a plan to address behavior. And so I have not just walked, but I've talked to talk, I've walked, and I have been making a difference serving as the current chair of the Alachua County School Board, and I ask you to continue to allow me to do this work and vote for me on August 20th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Vu, your statement, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Thomas Vu, and I'm running for Alachua County School Board, District 2. I'm a 37-year-old former teacher and former member of district staff, and it's through that experience that I've seen firsthand how our teachers, our students, and our families are not supported. As a candidate, I'm committed to creating real systems that support our teachers, that grow them as opposed to treating them like they're expendable. I'm also committed to creating systems that ensure our students can read proficiently, because the data is real and the data shows that if you can't read by the end of 5th grade, your educational prospects drastically dim. And if elected, I'm also going to do everything I can to change the culture of the school district so that we engage in real community engagement. We need to go out and listen to people to understand what their needs are and what their concerns are. And again, my name is Thomas Vu, and I'm running for Alachua County School Board, District 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Now from District 4, Leonetta McNeely, your statement, please.
Good afternoon. I think you can hear me now. I am Leonetta McNeely, and I am seeking re-election to the Alachua County School Board. I have served 38 years as an educator, and my years serving on the Alachua County School Board have given me and empowered me the knowledge as to how to face the challenges that we have in the school system. The state and local leaders have many challenges to improve education for all students. I want to continue to work to address those issues. I ask for your continued support for me as this candidate and returning to the Alachua County School Board.
Thank you. Lou Weld, your statement, please.
Yes, I pronounce that well-gee, like, well, gee, who was that unmasked man? I'm a 5th-generation Floridian. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of, from Randolph-Macon College, a liberal arts college in Ashland, Virginia. It was a religious studies major. And then I got my master's and my specialist degrees in education from the University of Florida here. Go Gators. I'm running for the District 4 seat at the Alachua County School Board to use my 18 years of extensive and innovative guidance counseling experience. Beginning teacher in Bradford County, 3 years, 3 years in Volusia County, my last 11 years in Duval County, the city of my birth, Jacksonville, Florida. I want to gain this position to help our students, their parents, and the employees of the Alachua County Public School System to experience the most broad benefit of counseling, which is to help we the people to feel better about ourselves and to get along better with others. That's counseling's mission statement, to help people, us, to feel better about ourselves and to get along better with other people. Was that my time, or am I out of time? Okay, we'll continue in a few minutes.
Thank you, candidates. We will now move on to our prepared questions. You will have 1.5 minutes to answer. We will start with the candidates of District 2 and proceed to the candidates of District 4. We will begin with the second candidate alphabetically and then rotate the order in which candidates will respond to the questions. For our first question, we will begin with District 2. What are your top 3 priorities for improving Alachua County schools? Thomas Vu, your answer, please.
I feel like I'm going to repeat my introduction a little bit, but my top 3 priorities are, which to me are very 101 basic things for any large organization. So the first thing we need to do is understand our greatest asset, which is our teachers. And when I was a teacher, It was honestly one of the most fulfilling times of my life. But the constant feeling I got is that our expertise was never valued. And we need to go back to realizing that teachers are the ones in the front lines. They're the ones who see the problems and teach our kids every day. Many of our teachers see everyone's kids more than their parents do and have a huge impact on their lives and their futures. And so first, it's just doing that, making sure we bring respect back to the profession, making sure that our teachers feel valued. Because right now we have teachers leaving because they don't. We have teachers leaving because they feel like they're treated as expendable. They're leaving because they're told they can't transfer out of their schools to seek greater opportunities or promotions for themselves. And so they just quit the district. The next priority is that we need to make sure that we're teaching kids how to read. I worked in the data department, and I really saw it firsthand to where once children leave elementary school, their ability to learn just drastically decreases. If you are a level 1 in reading in 5th grade, your math scores actually decrease over the year in 6th grade. To me, this is a 5-alarm fire that we're not addressing, and we need an all-hands-on-deck mentality of every aspect of government and community to do this. And the last one is just literally go out and engage the community. Solicit what they think, solicit what they have to say, and try to understand what their needs are when it comes to their kids' education. Because without that, we're not going to be able to make any movement to a better future.
Thank you. Diane McGraw, your answer, please.
And sitting in this chair, in this seat now with the Alachua County School Board, the top priority is our achievement gap. Since 2016, we had not had any of our schools that were in turnaround come out of turnaround. In less than 18 months, you have 3 schools that have come out of turnaround, which is wonderful. They're no longer a D or F school, they're now a C. And so we're making progress in that category. Everybody's wondering about Lake Forest. Looking at our data, Lake Forest should make it out, which has been 5 Fs in the past forever. And so the other thing is behavior. One of the things, student achievement and the behavior go hand in hand. If you do not address the behavior, that affects your achievement gap. And also, I have shown as a leader, we are supporting our teachers. We now have staff in place that has decentralized themselves, going out in the schools, hearing what our teachers are saying, and they're working extremely hard. So your achievement gap, the behavior, supporting your staff, increasing morale, that is currently happening in Alachua County schools. Because one of the things we did, we brought stability. When you heard from all of our teachers, they wanted stabilities. In the last 10 years, you've had 8 superintendents. You cannot make progress if you continue to change in leadership in a short period of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will move on to District 4 candidates' answers. Lou Welge, your answer, please.
Yes. Am I on? Top priority is working with the guidance staff. Teachers, as Mr. Vu says, are on the front lines. I don't like to use that metaphor because it's adversarial. We need better relationships between our teachers, our students, and counselors are folk that help relationships improve. The teachers are on the front line, the most stress. Administrators, are trying to help, but so often, systemically, they're removed from that classroom. A peer facilitator program is necessary in all the schools, elementary through high school. That's where students can help their fellow students. They'll learn listening skills. They'll be, that's the big thing. Listening's more important than talking. It's when folks are not heard and appreciated. Students, teachers, dissatisfied. I'm going to ask that administrators have at least one classroom guidance lesson a semester, where they are doing a classroom guidance lesson for their students in their schools. That's the first priority. I didn't get to the other 2. Excuse me.
Thank you. Leonetta McNeely, your answer, please.
It is very difficult for me to narrow it down for just 3, We have many, many priorities, but since you asked for three, one of the first ones that I want to see as a priority, and it's happening all over the United States and out of the country even, and that's recruiting and retaining qualified, certified teachers for our students. This is one top priority that we are having difficulty with. I will come back to that one before our questions are over. The other one is certainly compensation for all of our employees, not just the instructional staff, but all of our employees certainly need to have the correct compensation for the hard work that they all do. And then I know you've heard so much about rezoning. We have schools that are under-enrolled and schools that are over capacity. Those would be three of my top priorities: rezoning and compensation for all employees and recruiting and retaining qualified instructional staff.
Thank you. Now for our second question, we begin with District 4. How would you address the literacy challenges students face in Alachua County? Leonetta McNeely, your answer, please.
We would certainly have other programs that we are going to be implementing for our literacy. We need all students to be able to read, all students. And we usually say third grade. I would say foundationally, even in first grade. One of the things that we are doing so great, I think, is that we are going to be reopening Duval Elementary, where I started, finished up as principal, but we will be working with 3- and 4-year-olds in that school, and we will be emphasizing literacy, helping children learn to read. This is a challenge for us, and so this is one of the things that we will be addressing. How do we improve the literacy? Starting with the foundation, 3- and 4-year-olds. So I know that we have some other good programs in place, but I wanted to say that particular one, working with the young children who are below kindergarten age.
Thank you. Lou Welge, your answer, please.
Yes, I'm a 69-year-old guy. This is my last year in my 60s. And I remember school as being a kind of a fun time, really, especially elementary school. And so when you talk about introducing literacy, to be able to decode words, and I think we need to make it less prosaic and talk is cheap, right? Money talks, right? We need to incentivize the reading of our youngest children, elementary level, and we need to involve music, which is a universal language. So I'm going to really encourage the singing of the ABC song. We could all sing along. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. And I would go on, but you all know that tune. A second one that the kids need to know, because we all need to know that somebody cares before we care what they know. And so I'm going to encourage the kids to sing, "You Are My Sunshine, My Only Sunshine." They're going to learn some vocabulary with that song, and it's going to help them to have a song in their heart moving forward.
Thank you. Now we will move on to District 2 candidates' answers. Diane McGraw, your answer, please.
Again, I must agree with Dr. McNeely. One of the things I did when I first came in is I visited all of our VPK classes. I was really disappointed when we lost our Head Start program, because you had an opportunity after 40 years to work with the entire family. And reading is key. That's part of my platform. And one of the things that when I visited our VPK classes, you had some of the classes where 18 out of 21 kids were ready and prepared to read coming out of VPK. If we can do that across the district, then guess what? By third grade, our kids will be ready. Also, continue to support reading nights with the families. Also, we are in partnership with the county commission to do a countywide literacy assessment of the entire families. We are in a time where we have to work with the entire family because we know our system has been around for 30 years. We failed some of those parents who were students of Alachua County Public Schools, and now we have their children. But one of the things, and we also, I said, like I say, you got the credit, you got to look at the history. 2016, we had not had any movement when it comes to reading and closing that gap. It is happening now in Alachua County Public Schools, and I'm proud to be a part of this board that's making sure that is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas Vu, your answer, please.
Of course, I agree with everybody here. Reading is one of our biggest challenges that affects every aspect of education. And just for me personally, I was the child of Vietnamese immigrants who could not teach me how to read or write. So I went into elementary school not having any of those skills, much like so many of our kids do today here in Alachua County. But you know, who I am is a complete product of the Florida education system. And I know that education worked for me. And so when I became a teacher, one of the most heartbreaking things to see and to realize is that it's not working for so many of our kids here. And I'm a systems level thinker. And to me, when I look at the system we right now have to support kids, so much of it is we will catch them up in high school. And to me, that's over 5 years too late. I think we really do need a drastic change in how we reorient resources in this district. I agree with Dr. McNeely here. The primary grades are the most important. That's where all of our resources really need to go, K through 2, even though it's not state tested for accountability, because that's where it starts, and that's where kids start falling behind. And to do that truly is we need to take advantage of all the state tests that the state currently pays for, that gives us data about where kids are. We need to track it and see if they're making adequate progress from quarter to quarter and year to year. And if they're not, we have to make sure we have centralized resources we can actually go in and to support those kids. So much of what we do is blame families and blame everything except ourselves. And as a school district, we need to make sure we're doing everything we can within our power to make this change happen.
Thank you. Now for our third and final question, we'll start with District 2. Describe an effective school board member. Thomas Vu, your answer, please.
I believe an effective school board member truly is somebody who represents the people, is somebody who stands by what they say. One of my biggest reasons for running is the idea that I looked at the last election cycle. I looked at a bunch of candidates run all on basically the same platform, yet now they're split. Yet now we're not making the big drastic changes that we really do need to make. What I'm seeing right now is short-term thinking. What I'm seeing right now is just trying to put window dressing up to try to make things look nice, when in reality, if you look at the data, you look at the nitty-gritty, you look at the teacher exodus, everyone's leaving and almost everyone agrees that we have big issues here in Alachua County public schools that need drastic changes. So for me, to be an effective school board member, I have to go out and listen to everybody. It can't just be someone doing it for me. I have to go out into every periphery of the county and hear what life is like for people, how difficult it is for families to educate their kids, why some families feel like they don't even need to send their kids to school anymore because they feel like it doesn't offer them anything. We need to make sure that Alachua County Public Schools is everybody's #1 choice, and right now for so many it's not. Our enrollments have been declining for over a decade. Our ratio of gifted students, the overall student population, is decreasing even with all this population growth. They're all leaving because they all feel the same way. And for me to be an effective school board member, I need to do everything I can to make sure that people feel like our school district and our school board is here for them.
Thank you. Dan McGraw, your answer, please.
An effective school board leader is someone who looks like me. This is the third time that I'm running for the school board. Many people know my situation. When I came in, I came back with not a vindictive spirit. I came back for those who truly know me, hitting the ground, running, going into the schools. I went into the schools. I'm still going into schools. If you look at my Facebook page, I'm always posting where I've been, where I'm going. I have made a true difference with the children. That's what it's all about. I've taken the politics out of it, and I've focused on what is best for children. Even our board meetings now, they're very calm. Many people have called me and said, Ms. McGraw, continue to do what you're doing. An effective board member, we're going to listen. We're going to go in and build a relationship, because one of the things when I did come in, morale was extremely low. But when you show people that you care and you're serious about the seat that you're serving, and you say, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? I want to make a difference. I've done that through my service. I've done that as a leader. And a leader has to be able to make tough decisions, especially given the climate that we're in with dealing with Tallahassee, and our school board has been a target. And I have shown through my actions that I am here truly committed to serve, and I'm all about all kids and all families that are a part of Alachua County Public School. Thank you.
Thank you. Now for District 4 candidates' answers. Lou Welge, your answer, please.
Thank you. Yes. Showing up is half of it. And it's good that you're here today participating. And there's guidance counselors saw kids in three ways: individually, which everybody, confidentiality and all that. But that's great. But one-on-one, you can get along with anybody one-on-one. There's also small group counseling, like study skills and small groups to help kids deal with changes, like especially divorce or separation or anger in their homes, anger management. The third way is classroom guidance lessons, and this is where a counselor or an administrator or a teacher really shows their chops. Because if you can do an adequate lesson and keep the kids' attention and have them be able to say, well, I got X out of this, or I got that out of that, that's really where the rubber hits the road. And so I'm going to be doing outreach. I'm going to be like Ms. McGraw. I'm going to be visible, accessible, out in the schools. I'm going to be dressed as Abraham Lincoln occasionally in high school classes and elementary and middle school, because what an example. You don't worry if people don't listen to us. They're always watching us. So people say, well, why do I reenact Abraham Lincoln? Because I can. And I first started it as a guidance lesson in Duval County. It was very successful. You talk about passion. You get people, you get the students interested in history, and it's a complex thing. And so involvement, attendance, involvement.
Thank you. Leonetta McNeely, your answer, please.
I guess you may wonder, why am I wanting to be reelected? Well, one thing, there's work still to be done. An effective school member, a board member, I should say, never stops worrying about what needs to happen or change in the Alachua County public school system. I can tell you that through my years serving in this capacity, the passion that I feel, the speaking that I will do, the fighting that I have to continue is a must. An effective board member must include stakeholders, the citizens, the families, staff, all of the above, in order to make things happen for our children. And I keep saying the children. Yes, we have staff. Yes, we have other aspects of the school system, but the kids are our number one priority. So I sleep, eat, and work hard every day. That is what you need as an effective school board member.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, for participating in this forum this afternoon. Next, we move on to candidates in City Commission.
Good afternoon. I'm League Member Diane D'Imperio, and I'll be the moderator for the Gainesville City Commission candidates. Welcome, candidates. Welcome, candidates, and thank you for joining us today. Gainesville City Commissioners perform duties like approving the city's budget, setting the millage rate, and approving ordinances and resolutions. Commissioners must continuously live in their district during their time in office. City commissioners serve a 4-year term and are limited to 2 terms. All residents in Gainesville are eligible to vote for the at-large position, but only those who live in the district may vote for the district positions, and we have one of each today. There are 2 candidates in the race for at-large, James Engel and Fareed Reed Johnson. And there are 2 candidates in the race for District 1, Michael Perkins and Desmond Duncan Walker. The format of the panel will be familiar to you by now. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their opening statement, and following the opening statement, I'll read questions that have been prepared by the League of Women Voters, and each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer. There'll be 3 questions, and we'll rotate the order in which candidates answer the question. And as you have seen, candidates can see the timer, which will indicate the time remaining, and then we have our little jingle that tells them when to stop. And if they don't stop, I'll mash on their toes, in spite of the table. So please stop when your time is up. So we will now begin with the candidate's opening statement. You'll each have 1 minute, and we'll begin with the candidates for the at-large in alphabetical order. So James Engel, will you please make your opening statement?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. My name is James Engel. I'm running for the Gainesville at-large City Commission seat. Was going to try a sing-along too, but it didn't seem to go along very well last time, so I'm going to skip that. So I got into this race because I am tired of seeing people in Gainesville struggle. You know, Gainesville is a great place to live, but it is a hard place to earn a living. I think we can do better, and I really want to change that. You know, my background covers a lot of that. I'm the president of the local electricians union. I've worked as an apprenticeship instructor. I've served on the Alachua County Workforce Development Board. I've seen the difference that can be made when people have opportunities, and I want to be part of making this a better place for working people. So thanks very much, and look forward to this forum.
Thank you. Reed Johnson, your opening statement, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Fareed Johnson. Those that know me call me Reed. As of yesterday, I am 32 years old. I'm a father. Currently serve on the Police Advisory Council. I've had the pleasure and opportunity of serving as both the chair and vice chair. I'm born and raised here in Gainesville. I'm running to offer a perspective that I find to be the most popular perspective, but the least represented. And that is the middle of the aisle. We have so many solutions to problems right here in our community, but unfortunately, party lines are getting in the way of us implementing those solutions. I'm running to knock down that barrier. Top priorities for me and my campaign are addressing public safety, our gun violence, our housing shortage, and the problems around our city budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll hear opening statements from our 2 District 1 candidates. Michael Perkins, your opening statement, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Perkins. I come here, boots on the ground, to not to serve, but to elevate my level of service. I serve this community. I've been on the front lines serving citizens that are hungry and homeless, in a food bank ministry, feeding those citizens. I've been mentoring our children, mentorship program, personally teaching kids from 1-year-old up to 2nd grade, teaching them the basics, teaching them mainly kids who are Title I, disadvantaged, single parent homes, low income, teaching them just how to treat others, teaching them self-respect for themselves so they can have respect for others. I've served this community with the NAACP, and I also, that was my bell. Thank you. I'll finish later.
Thank you. Thank you for your statement and for honoring the time schedule. So Desmond Duncan Walker, your opening statement, please.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the entire League of Women Voters and everyone who's here this afternoon. It is truly an honor, not just to be here today, but to have been blessed with the privilege of serving the people of this great city. Gainesville is a great place. My roots date back to its very beginnings. I am proud and pleased to say that my ancestors and forefathers were among those that helped to build Gainesville, and so this place is very, very important to me. 3 years ago, the members of District 1 elected me to be the voice for them, and I believe that I've been able to do that with a modicum of respect, compassion, and dignity. These years have been not just challenging, but they've been rewarding as well, as we have faced challenges at the city, but also in complete transparency, my own challenges as well. And I'd like to just say this, while I may not have been at every city commission meeting, my work speaks for itself, and may that work continue to speak for me.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we will give the candidates the opportunity to respond to our questions. Just as a reminder, you'll have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. The first question is, what strategies will you use to communicate with all of your constituents so that you fairly represent the diverse interests of the city's residents? And we'll begin with the candidates for the at-large position, starting with James Engel.
Thank you. So to me, the trick to being able to communicate with people is you've got to meet them where they are. So there's a lot of different methods and medias that you can use for outreach. And a lot of people are not going to be constantly tuned in to what's going on with their city. I think the strategies you can use are everything from town halls for people that enjoy coming out and being physically involved and want to have a conversation, to virtual town halls and outreach online for people that either don't have the ability to or don't particularly like going out in public and don't have those options to make big events like that. Making sure that we've got an effective communications department inside of the city that can get information out not only on what the city is doing, but how those citizens can interact is going to be very important. But I think, again, the key to really effective communications is not choosing the type of communication that I prefer, but the type of communication that people prefer to contact us with. You really have to meet people where they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Reed Johnson, your answer, please.
One of the reasons why I'm running is because whenever we look at the crime in our community, oftentimes the individuals that are perpetuating that crime are individuals that are part of the least represented age, the least represented gender, and the least represented race. I'm running to give those individuals a voice. Not only that, but I also have experience being on Police Advisory Council. I have relationships with individuals that are in many parts of government, as well as individuals that are currently suffering from the problems and the issues in our community. Individuals that may be currently in jail, incarcerated, individuals that are homeless. I know these individuals personally. I can give them a voice. Advisory boards, one of my 100-day goals is to implement a youth advisory board. We have to give the youth in our community a voice. Those youth are going to be the future of our community. We need to bring them to the table. Individuals that are perpetuating crime. We need to have conversations with individuals that have successfully exited the criminal justice system. Bring them to the table. Give them a voice. Mr. Engel mentioned town halls. That is great. I thoroughly believe in town halls. Why not have town halls in our county jail with the permission of our sheriff candidates or whoever wins that sheriff race? I plan on working with every sector of our community to give every individual a voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the candidates in District 1 will please answer the same question. We'll start with Michael Perkins. Your answer, please.
Yes. My strategy to communicate with the citizens is what I've always done. That's boots on the ground. That means I'll continue to attend meetings, school board meetings, the Children's Trust Fund meetings, the county meetings. Just continue to be there for the citizens. I want to continue what I'm doing right now, which is going to community meetings within each of those communities, homeowners associations, meeting with the people and finding out exactly what it is that they need. And I will be there. I think anybody that knows me, most people know me as Perk, but I've got my reputation for being there. I will show up for you. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Desmond Duncan Walker, would you like to answer the question, please?
I absolutely will. Thank you very much. This thing called the telephone is something that's very, very important, and it's critical when you are serving in public office. It's always my goal to answer the phone. When you call my office, you'll first start with an EA, but she will send you directly to me, and I make it my goal to answer. I will get to you. It may take a little while, but you will eventually be gotten to. I want to circle back to the town hall discussion. That is a very effective way of communicating. When I first arrived to office, one of the first things that I did was a town hall on gun violence. I believe the name of it was From Community Problem to Community Solutions, and it brought out over 1,000 people. It is an effective way, and a way that I will continue to engage with the community because it gives you a voice. Those town halls, though, cannot just be conversations. One of my goals from that town hall, and one thing that did happen, was the collection of the data from it, because that data has to be used to help us move towards the solution. So town halls are an absolute wonderful way. Meeting the community where they are in the community, in their neighborhoods, is an effective strategy. People want to know that you care. They want to know that you'll reach beyond the doors at City Hall and meet them where they are. Meeting with the community, I think, is important in both town halls, community meetings, and also committee meetings at the city level as well.
Thank you. The next question is, what do you see as the path forward for the relationship between the City of Gainesville and GRU? It's a hot topic, but you still only have a minute and a half. I'm sorry. For this question, we will begin with District 1 candidates. Desmond Duncan Walker, you get to take the first run at this one.
Oh, I thank you.
Not that you haven't thought about it.
Oh, my goodness. So anyone who has breath in their body understands the tremendous challenge that this community is facing at GRU. I think as I've approached most things in my life, you must always start with diplomacy. I have seen individuals want to approach this from a partisan perspective. I have seen individuals want to approach this from an economic perspective. I will tell you that it is probably the most challenging thing that the city has had to deal with in quite a while. As I listen to my constituents, I've heard a number of things. I've heard constituents saying, I need my bills lowered because I'm having to make life decisions when I pull into GRU. Do I buy my insulin or do I pay my light bill? I am hearing constituents say, my light bill is higher than my mortgage. We are at critical mass. No one yet has arrived at the solution. So it is important and critical now that we all listen to each other. The commission has listened to the citizens who have come out and asked for a referendum. You now have that. You will have an option, or an opportunity, I should say, to vote in this upcoming election. But I think diplomacy in terms of the path forward with the City Commission and GRU is going to be the only way that we'll be able to get anything accomplished.
Thank you. No, well, we have this fall forum, so we maybe have a little more time. Michael Perkins, your answer to that question, please.
Yes, I think as all things, we all make mistakes. And the good thing about making mistakes is most of us learn from those mistakes and just try to do better. So this referendum gives us, the citizens of Gainesville, represented by our city commission, an opportunity to do better. You know, yes, we made some mistakes in the past, but yeah, we learned from those mistakes. So let us, not some outside board, but us, govern ourselves in a more constructive manner. I was at the budget meetings quite recently, and the city plan forward. They have a 10-year plan in terms of how they're going to approach that, and it's a way of. In the past, they were taking money from GRU. They created this big budget deficit. Their plan forward is to stop doing that. What they're going to do now is take very little as possible. I think they're all the way down to like $8 million, which is going to give the Gainesville GRU a chance to balance its own budget and give the citizens of Gainesville a chance to govern themselves. So I applaud what the city commission is currently doing, our city manager is currently doing, and I think the path forward will work for us, and I believe that our commission will do a great job.
Thank you. Now we'll have our two at-large candidates answer the same question. Reed Johnson, would you answer, please?
Like I said, I was born and raised here in Gainesville, and I can tell you right now, my mother moved out of Gainesville almost 15 years ago. She's still complaining about GRU. And so with that being said, I see this as a checks and balances system. This gives us an opportunity to work with the authority board. This does not have to be a divisive issue. Citizens in Gainesville have complained about GRU for the longest. Pretty much that's all I remember as far as Gainesville goes. If you say Gainesville, I think GRU and I think about the complaints of people that I've heard. If this authority board is going to address the debt and the economical issues surrounding GRU and remove that burden off the backs of the citizens of Gainesville and Alachua County, they have my support. If they are willing to work with the city commission, they have my support. There's ways that we can replace the lost revenue. We have to focus on housing, getting more housing on our tax roll. We can address this issue. Two things can be true at once. We can address this issue and work together to make sure that the city commission and the GRU authority board both are effective bodies in government.
Thank you. James Engel, your answer, please.
Well, we've got pretty different feelings on that. As far as I'm concerned, the GRU Authority Board has been a disaster. It was created by two politicians who have repeatedly and overwhelmingly been rejected by the people not only in the city of Gainesville, but also in the GRU service area. It was snuck in at the last minute in a basement meeting in Tallahassee with very little public input. The original board that was appointed there, upon finally coming to admit that the positions they held, they were legally not allowed to hold, all resigned. Between the time they turned in that resignation and the time that resignation became effective, they continued to make very serious policy decisions, even after having said that they had no business being there. Since that point, I find it incredibly inappropriate that someone got appointed to the second board, use that appointment to fire the general manager, and then appoint themselves to what is probably going to be the highest paid position in the city of Gainesville. It is blatantly corrupt to me. The whole thing, in my opinion, has just been a goddamn clown show. And it would be funny if it wasn't doing so much damage both to the city of Gainesville and to the utility.
Thank you. The candidates for the at-large A position will be the first to answer question number 3, which will be our last question. What solutions can you suggest to deal with the persistent issues of mental health, addiction, and the unhoused in our city? James Engel, would you answer the question, please?
Certainly. If there was an easy answer, it would be done already. The truth of the matter when you're talking about these problems that we've got is that these are national problems. Everywhere in the country is facing the same issues that we are here in Gainesville on this. So what can we do that is going to set us apart from everyone else having these problems, and in what ways can we find local solutions here? It's not my area of expertise, but fortunately, we've got very good people here that are focused on this. So the good work that they are doing at Grace Marketplace, the good work that that we've got here at the, and I get the name wrong every time, the Schindberg Center for Affordable Housing here in the UF, all are excellent resources that have not only a good track record of actually making progress, but good data and are able to pull from experts in this field from all over the country. What they need is resources. And this is the type of thing that gets back to how do we as a city put a budget together if we've got a GRU authority that is changing whatever our budget contribution might be on a whim. What we need is to invest more in solutions to this, and that is the only way we are going to address these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Reed Johnson, your answer, please.
So let me start off by saying that $23,000 per bed at Grace Marketplace is not only unsustainable, but unacceptable. We have to find a way to reduce that cost. That puts a financial strain on the citizens of Gainesville, which then in turn translates to mental health issues. This city is a tough place to live. It's a tough place to make money. And putting that type of cost burden on individuals is bad enough. Again, addressing the housing issue by bringing more housing into our market, that's the only way that we're going to reduce the cost of housing. It's not a materials cost issue. It's a supply and demand issue. The demand is way too high and way too heavy on the supply that we have. That allows property managers and builders to run up the price of housing around here. And again, that makes it harder on individuals, and that all translates back to mental health. Supporting our law enforcement. The addiction issue is part of the addiction issue is that our law enforcement is not able to get drugs out of our community fast enough. We have to improve the Gainesville Police Department staffing, bringing more officers into the community, making sure that those officers are trusted by the community. That way that we can work to get drugs out of our community. The homeless population has drug dealers that live amongst them. We have to get those individuals not only out of that community, but off of the streets.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the candidates for District 1. Desmond Duncan Walker, would you please answer the question?
Thank you. In the last several months, I have urged my colleagues at the City Commission to make sure that we are putting the most effective and most experienced people on our Gainesville Housing Authority Board. And I'm saying that because the Gainesville Housing Authority is one of the agencies that is a critical piece in making sure that we are providing safe housing for those who are the most vulnerable. They also provide several different services and programs that fall into the categories that you're discussing today, from mental health as well as addiction. So making sure that that board is stacked with the individuals who know how to ensure that that agency is run as effectively as possible is something that has become a priority of mine. How we can also incentivize property owners or landlords to accept Section 8 vouchers. I'm talking about the most vulnerable populations among us who are finding themselves in positions where they're unable to find housing simply because there are individuals who don't want to rent to them because they are of a certain socioeconomic status. I think that the city can play a role in that. We've just got to figure out exactly what it is. There's a wonderful agency that I also just came into the awareness of and took a tour of, who is beginning to do the work in this space, and that's the Gainesville Opportunity Center. Obviously, I won't have enough time to talk about them, but I'd be happy to speak more about them. But there are solutions. It's a mammoth problem that's going to take an all-hands-on-deck approach, but there are ways that we can start to move forward.
Thank you. Michael Perkins, you get the last word.
Yes, thank you. The most complicated is the unhoused. There are some citizens that are unhoused because they're going through some economic issues. There are a lot of people who are residents, may not be citizens of Gainesville, but they live here, and they choose to live that lifestyle. They choose not to be housed. It's okay. And we must realize as a society that they have a right to live that life. And we must recognize that they are citizens, and we need to make room for them. Whatever we need to do to make room for them and their lifestyle, we need to do that. Mental health, something that always been with us, nothing new about that. We just need to recognize that they are citizens, and we need to recognize that when they're having these issues, our police don't need to treat them as if they've done something wrong. They have mental issues. We need to make sure that police have the training to recognize what's going on and that it's more mental than it is criminal. And addiction is pretty much the same category. People go through different things. And one of the answers to what we're going through is drugs and alcohol. And so we just have to give people an opportunity to grow. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you again, candidates, for joining us and for your very thoughtful answers. We appreciate your attendance, and thank you very much. This concludes the panel for the City Commission, and we'll move on to the panel for the state representatives.
My name is Stephanie Gadalian. I am the president of the UF League of Women Voters, and I'm going to be moderating the State of Florida House of Representatives District 22 panel. So there are two Democratic candidates for this race, David Ariola and Amy Trask, and there are two Republican candidates for this race, Ramey Eagle Glenn and Chad Johnson. Mr. Johnson was unable to attend today due to work commitments. So thank you for joining us, y'all. So the state representatives are elected in a partisan election for 2-year terms and may be elected to up to 4 terms. Candidates must live in the district in which they represent, and there are 4 candidates that will appear on the primary election ballot. The format of the forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement, and then following the opening statements, I will read questions prepared by the League of Women Voters. And candidates will have 1.5 minutes to respond to each of these questions, for a total of 3 questions. You will be able to see the timer when you have 30 seconds left, and when your time is complete, please stop, or your microphone may be muted. So for opening statements, we will begin in alphabetical order, and you will have 1 minute. David Ariola, your opening statement.
Thank you to the League for hosting us. It's always a pleasure to be here at the Bob Graham Center, and I want to pay homage to the late Bob Graham. He was an excellent example of what a public official is supposed to be. It's fitting that we're here. I'm a first-generation American, born here in Gainesville, born right here in House District 22. I was the youngest city commissioner ever elected to the city commission here in Gainesville, in District 3, which is also in House District 22. This election is about ending one-party rule in Tallahassee. Look where it has gotten us. We have the most expensive property insurance rates in the country, with the average Floridian paying over $10,000, and it's not getting better. The state legislature has taken reproductive rights and moved backwards by taking away the right for pregnant women to get appropriate consultation for their own health care. Gun violence is a problem that has gotten so bad in this state, but the legislature has decided to roll back the protections that were passed after the horrific Parkland shooting. I'm the most experienced candidate with a proven track record of addressing these pressing issues head on, and I stand by my values and principles. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Trask, your statement, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Amy Trask, and I'm running for Florida State House District 22. I work for Harvard Safra Center for Ethics, and I have a background in conflict resolution, de-escalation, and dialogues across differences. I'm a mom, I'm a neighbor, and I come from a very long line of public servants in this state, starting from the time our Florida Constitution was signed. I've shown up and have spoken out when our liberties were under attack, oftentimes with kids in tow. And my campaign began as a love letter to my children because they were inheriting a Florida I couldn't recognize. We've enforced partisan education, denied history, censored speech, destroyed autonomy, passed discriminatory legislation, and failed to act on critical state issues in favor of culture wars. It's time now that we turn our fear into fuel and to change the way we do politics. Civility, sanity, communicating constructively, and building bridges where we can so we can start putting people first. Again, we need representation that reflects us and understands us. And as a young mom who was on Medicaid, a student with 2 kids and a survivor and an underdog, no one knows that fight harder than me. Thank you.
Thank you. And for our Republican candidate, Ramey Eagle Glenn, your statement, please.
Thank you for having me today, and in the spirit of bipartisanship and to honor the late Bob Graham, I am happy to participate today. I served as the 3rd Republican County Commissioner in Alachua County history. I was appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis and served in 2022. And during that time, I learned to do the most good for the most people, and I also learned that I will not please everyone all of the time. Look, I'm here, and I can sort of guess at the political makeup of the room, and I come before you as an underdog here in this room. So I've learned to live like an underdog, fight like an underdog, and run my campaign like an underdog because I am of the political minority in my own community. And I'm going to take that spirit and that fight to Tallahassee to work on property insurance, to work on hardening our infrastructure, and to work on our food security. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to move on to our prepared questions. You will each have 1.5 minutes to answer. We're going to start with our Republican candidate and then move on to our Democrat candidates, first with Amy Trask and then moving on to Mr. Ariola. After each question, we are going to reverse the order in which the candidates respond. So for our first question, what issues should cities and counties be able to decide for themselves, and which issues should be preempted by the state? Ramey Eagle Glenn, your answer, please.
I do want to go to Tallahassee and look at ways where we can streamline certain permitting processes. We talk about affordable housing, workforce housing, and a lack thereof. And unfortunately, it becomes very difficult to achieve those goals when we have very heavy-handed local ordinances and rules that slow down a permitting process and make it very difficult for people to build such housing. We also tend to make it very difficult for our farmers in Alachua County. We have not only the federal EPA, the DEP, at which I clerked at in 2010 during the Deepwater Horizon oil spill crisis, but we have a 3rd level of environmental protection in Alachua County that is counterintuitive to the goals of trying to house people in our community.
counterintuitive to the goals of trying to bring in infrastructure and business opportunities, especially to the east side of Gainesville. And so I do believe that there are some places where preemption of cantankerous and duplicative local ordinances are most valuable for the bipartisan spirit of creating opportunity, building infrastructure, and providing housing.
Thank you. Amy Trask, your response, please.
Thank you so much. I'm a huge proponent for home rule. I was the only candidate that showed up at the JLAC meeting in October in defense of GRU, strictly because of the precedent that it sent, that we have a legal right to home rule, and despite a legal vote, our municipal utility was taken away. I think that there are definitely areas that the state should have control when it comes to domestic violence laws that are in place, major health issues and ordinances that we have in those regards. But for the most part, each city is different, and each city should be able to make legislation that will best reflect their makeup and will best help their constituents to flourish and thrive, because their needs are different. Their makeups are different, and that's what I would say when it comes to land and water conservation, springs protections, how we mitigate climate change impacts. Those are things I think that the city and county should be able to control. I'm firmly against the preemption of electric vehicle infrastructure and major changes like that. So I think that there is room for the state with major things, but home rule should be, it should be the rule of the law.
Thank you. And David Ariola, your answer, please.
Thank you. I'm a strong believer in the American federalism system of government. There are supposed to be different levels of government that address different issues. One of the issues that is paramount, that I think the state should absolutely get involved in, is the maintenance and preservation of civil rights. I don't think it is right that other localities should have the ability to infringe on other people's civil rights. I think that that is something that has to be protected at the state level, and it is indeed protected by federal law. I was on the city commission, and I had no idea how difficult Tallahassee was going to make my life. Every time we were trying to address local issues and we would pass ordinances, whether it was renters' rights, whether it was environmental protection, or whether it was living wage requirement for contractors working on city jobs, the next session, the legislature decided to preempt all of that. Short-term rentals, they preempted our regulation to regulate short-term rentals. And so I think that right now the attitude of the legislature is, we know best. We're going to support big corporations and big business over the local governments and their constituents. And I don't think that's right. As the next state representative for this district, I'm going to prioritize the local municipalities, and I'm going to make sure that they are involved in these conversations, because one of the other things that happened when those preemption bills would pass, we never got a call from our state representative. We were never offered on what our thoughts were on these issues. It's time for dialogue to begin.
Thank you. So for our second question, given the prevalence of gun violence in our society, what steps would you take to make our district a safe place in which to live and work? David Ariola, your answer, please.
This is an issue that I worked on the city commission. I helped to approve funding for sponsorships for gun buyback programs. You would be surprised how many people want to turn in a gun for some cash. This is one way to get weapons off the street. I also think we have to look at common sense solutions, such as requiring secure storage at home. We require secure storage in vehicles. Why wouldn't we secure it at home? Because a lot of gun violence incidents, they are incidents that happen at home with small children or with people who don't know how to operate firearms. I also think we should have more stringent licensing requirements. The Supreme Court just supported the fact that domestic violence abusers cannot purchase firearms while they're under investigation, and there was only one justice who voted against that. So this is fully supported. But what we have in the legislature is a legislature that wants to make it so that everybody can get a gun at any time, anywhere, any place, any kind of gun, no training requirements, no licensing requirements, and they call that constitutional carry. It makes us unsafe. The police chiefs of Florida didn't support it. So this is another example of extremism in our legislature that has to come to an end because it is costing lives. And we have polling that shows it's supported by both parties, some of the solutions I mentioned.
Thank you. Amy Trask, your response, please.
Thank you. So I think it would be an illusion to think that there is only one way to solve this. This is a multifaceted issue. We've heard from our officials that, at least in our district, one of the biggest reasons we have gun violence is because we have break-ins in cars. And so there's a lot of different reasons that we have gun violence. I do think that because it is a multifaceted issue, we need to look at the root cause, which could also be mental health. We need to be fighting to invest in mental health and crisis intervention programs along with trauma-informed care beginning in early ed. I do think we should highly incentivize safe gun storage at home because there is a high number of children and teen deaths or child and teen deaths because of access. But I also believe that we should be supporting the age restriction of 21. I think we should be taking steps to ensure that people with convictions of domestic violence don't get their hands on weapons. There are universal background checks that we can look into. I think that the step forward is respecting it as a multifaceted approach and respecting the integrity of the issue because it's not just one thing, it's a lot of things. And in order to address it, we need to address the core, the root of the problem, and work outward from there.
Thank you. Ramey Eagle Glenn, your answer, please.
The Second Amendment protects our First Amendment. In the United States of America, we are citizens. We are not subjects. We are not subject to a crown. We are not subject to a dictatorship. And that Second Amendment is an American's right and privilege. I went through the permitting process to lawfully carry a gun when permits were required. However, because I am not quite quick with a gun or well-trained with a gun, I feel like it is irresponsible for me personally to carry one around. And I believe in training with guns and firearms. And I believe that hunting and marksmanship education training should be available to our youth. I believe that when we foster good relationships with our law enforcement community and youth, especially at our elementary schools, we can perhaps provide these offerings of marksmanship, gun range days, and we need to teach respect for the power and the privilege that the Second Amendment is. And I think that education should be for the youth and also for parents for that safe gun storage and that safety education at home. That's where it starts. And I will do everything in my power going forward to protect the Second Amendment. And I believe that criminals do not follow laws. So making more gun laws is not going to solve the problem of gun violence.
Thank you. So for our third and final question, what steps would you encourage the legislature to take to protect Florida from the effects of climate change? Ramey Eagle Glenn, your answer, please.
In 2022, 2 of my family members' homes were flooded by Hurricane Ian in the Fort Myers area. And I didn't catch a break because then in 2023, over here on the coast of Cedar Key, Yankeetown, and all the way up, we had more devastating effects because of hurricanes. So Mother Nature is telling us that we may not get a break this summer either because NOAA has predicted a higher than average hurricane season, a very active hurricane season. And one of my #1 priorities in Tallahassee is to spend our state taxpayer dollars to harden our coastal infrastructure. And people may say, well, I don't live on the coast. Why does that affect me? Well, because of coastal migration. The cost of living on the coast, the just unending barrage of these storms and floodwaters are making it very difficult for many people to stay there. So where are they coming? They're coming here to what I call the highlands. We are very protected here in Alachua County in Gainesville. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to move here. And other people are following suit. So this goes into our infrastructure with sewage and water systems on the coast, but also our affordable and workforce housing. So it is an investment that we all need to look at in a bipartisan fashion, and I plan to make that one of my top priorities in Tallahassee.
Thank you. Amy Trask, your response, please.
As a sunshine state, we should be the global leader in renewable energy, especially solar. I would challenge monopoly energy utility companies like FPL for their rate hikes, their efforts to decimate rooftop solar industry. I think we need to, like I said earlier, be investing in land and water conservation, springs protection, mitigating these climate change impacts. My goal would be to transition to clean energy sources. The sooner the better. Promoting sustainable practices, I think we need to invest in shared solar projects to allow low-income communities to access clean energy. And I'd like to integrate solar panels into building materials like shingles or siding or windows. I think finding a way to make it accessible and equitable is going to be the key to mitigating this crisis moving forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. David Ariola, your answer, please.
We have to be honest. Climate change is here. It's not on its way. It's here. I was invited by the mayor of Cedar Key to tour the city, which still is dealing with the fact that the legislature, how does the legislature deal with climate change? Well, they write a law that says we're going to spend all of our money to remove those two words from every state law. They're just going to stick their heads in the sand until the water comes and gets over them. That's not what we can afford here in Florida. Cedar Key got hit so hard by flooding by Hurricane Idalia, they retreated their city hall to the hill. They moved their city hall to higher ground because of the dangers of climate change. Now, I want to be very clear. We obviously have to move to renewable energies to mitigate the long-term effects. But what we have to do is prepare for the dangers of extreme flooding, sea level rise, and more extreme weather. This means we have to raise some roads which are currently in danger of being flooded. This means that we have to have higher capacity for strengthening buildings when they're constructed in the danger zones. We have to update our flood maps because right now, the property insurance crisis, that is a crisis of climate change. While the legislature wants to pretend that it doesn't exist, insurance companies have to go home and figure out how are they going to stay in business when the environment is completely in shambles. And you can feel it outside. 12 months in a row, the hottest month on record. 12 months in a row, every month has been the hottest month on record. Years, the heat is just, you can feel it, y'all.
Thank you. So this concludes the panel for state representative and marks the end of our primary forum. Our gratitude goes out to all the candidates who took the time and made the effort to appear here today and to express their views. And to the audience, thank you so much for being here. And y'all remember, your voice is your vote. Thank you.